Hi everyone, good morning. Rachel here from Nutrition in Bloom. Whew. And today we are talking about how to help your picky eater eat at meal times. Now, I first want to say I don't love the term picky eater. I tend to say selective eater or your child who might, have very strong food preferences. So let me just preface this by saying that. But I think we as a society, we think of picky eater a lot and we about that a lot and we think of, oh my God, I just want my child to eat, or we feel worried about them not eating. We feel stressed. We have fear. There's so much that surrounds eating, and especially those eaters that are more selective. So I want to talk today about how we can help our picky eaters, or even just our kids at mealtime. I also want to let you know that my Conquering Mealtimes program, if you are struggling with feeding, it is on sale for the month of December. I mentioned this on my video last week. I don't love Black Friday. I find it's like so stressful, but I wanted to give those of you an opportunity who are interested in getting some feeding guidance to get some help before this month. So my program, it is an online course. It is a part group, so there's a group component where I do monthly Q&As, and then every single month you get a one-on-one with me, which is amazing. I added that to the program over the last several months based on some feedback. People wanted some more support. So the program is $199, so less than $200, and it's lifetime. You get access to the program for as long as you need it, because I know when it comes to feeding, you don't want to feel rushed, like you just want to get that support. So you have the course, which are these short little modules that you can kind of go through at your very own pace, and you get a group and you get one-on-one support every single month. So however you like it, it is there for you. So I'm going to link to that here, but I want you to know that if you are struggling with feeding, I can offer you a guarantee that this course is going to change how you feed and change for a lifetime. Excuse me. So that is that. And now I want to dive into helping our kids eat at meal times, because I know that it can be very challenging. So, I will say, I know that the stress can feel sometimes with feeding like so overwhelming that we don't even know where to begin. Like, how do we just start this process? So, the first thing I want to talk about is how we can encourage instead of pressuring at meal times. Now, how we talk about food can honestly be just as powerful and impactful as to what we are providing. So if you have ever maybe tried this strategy at home where you just want your child to eat a bite, just try it, just take a bite. How often are they like, sure, okay, I'm going to take a bite, yay. I'm assuming if you are here watching this, they're probably not doing that, which is absolutely normal and natural for that to happen, because when we are asking them to do something, a lot of times they don't necessarily want to do it, right? So, what I always talk about and always recommend is how we can provide some encouragement without pressure. In my Conquering Mealtimes program, I really, really dive into this because I think that there's a lot of nuances here and a lot of the how to do it. But what I want you to start thinking about is, instead of take a bite of broccoli, I know you like it, just eat 3 bites of your peas, or just try the pasta. I know you're going to like it. Think about shifting that, and think about shifting to, when I take this bite of broccoli and touch it to my lips, it feels kind of bumpy. Does it feel like that to you? Or, ooh, this pasta feels a little slippery on my tongue. Does it feel like that to you? And what we're doing here is we're shifting. And if your child doesn't want to engage, that's okay. The pressure has to come off for us to be able to have our children eat new foods in a way where they want to be eating it. I talk about having this intrinsic or internal motivation to be eating new foods. And that's always my goal when I work with families. And I get pushback. If I don't tell my child to eat their vegetables, they're not going to eat them. But I promise you it is possible. And it's all about how we come to the table and how we engage. So I want you to start just shifting that first piece of it and see what happens. Let me know if you have questions on that. The second piece of this, the second tip that I have here is what sort of expectations do we have around meal times? Do we feel like our child's going to eat something brand new? Do we think that they're going to, try the food that maybe they used to eat? So, how I recommend looking at this is to kind of I like to use lower our standards a little bit, but like lowering our expectations. Now, most children have a list of foods that they usually eat, they sometimes eat, and that they're not yet eating. And if any of you have downloaded my guide, my 4 steps to help your child try new foods, this is part of that guide. And I have in there a fillable PDF where you can put in what are your child's preferred foods, maybe what are the foods that they sometimes eat, and what are the foods that they're not yet eating. And we always want to make sure we are providing a yes or a preferred food with meal times. Now, that might be fruit, that might be bread, but it also could be chicken. It also could be a different type of bread. So I want to make sure we're always having that preferred food with some new foods, because having some of those new foods is going to provide exposure to a new food. And if they're more familiar with the foods that they're eating, it's going to decrease the pressure on them that they feel like they have to try it. So making sure to provide that food that you know that they do like. Now, this doesn't mean that they get to dictate and say, well, I want my special pasta, I want my macaroni and cheese, I want my pizza, whatever else it might be. But it does mean that what you are providing, at least one thing on the table, that they're going to eat. And if they eat bread for dinner, they eat bread for dinner. Now, with that, I talk a lot about celebrating small wins. And there is this idea, this steps to eating. There is a occupational feeding therapist, her name is Kay Toomey, and she has developed these steps to eating. And what she talks about is that as adults, we sometimes think about eating as a 2-step process. Food is in front of us, we eat it. But in fact, and especially for those that might be more selective, eating is a process that takes many, many steps. So a child might need to tolerate the food in the room, then tolerate it on the plate, then tolerate it, touch it, and then lick it, and then kiss it. And there might be many more steps in between. But what I want you to start thinking about is that we can celebrate those small wins. So let's say your child touches a new food. Let's say they kiss it. Let's say they even are okay just passing a bowl of something from one person to another, or even just looking at it. The list goes on and on. Those are wins, and those are how we get to eating new foods. Because when they feel more comfortable with a new food, that is going to give them, they will start expanding, and that is how we get them eating new food. So celebrate those little wins. Even though it may not seem like much, I want you to think about celebrating those. And then shifting a little bit away from meal times, but I love to pack a nutrition punch. Does your child like muffins, cookies, pancakes, smoothies? How can you maybe add a little bit more nutrition in there? So what that might mean is my kids love chocolate chip zucchini muffins. Of course, there has to be chocolate chips in there, but I put zucchini in there, and I put some chia seed and some flax seed in there. Sometimes we'll do pancakes the same way or smoothies the same way. Now, I know this tip can be much more challenging if your child is highly selective and extremely sensitive to new foods. But one of the things that I am here to do is to help you with that. So if you are like, this would never work because my child doesn't eat any of those things and I don't know how to get that nutrition in there, then let's talk. Sign up for Conquering Mealtimes, or we can schedule some time to chat one-on-one together, because it's absolutely possible to do that. And even if that means, let's say they like Cheerios and they're getting fortified Cheerios that have vitamins and minerals in there. So those are some other things to think about when it comes to how to kind of pack that nutrition punch. And if your child's not as selective and maybe has a good amount of variety, then how can you use what they're eating to maybe just boost that nutrition a little bit? And then tip number 5 here is to relax. Relax at mealtimes. Now, this tip might seem like I'm, like seriously, this is a tip. But yes, feeding is not going to be perfect. And honestly, the more that we are relaxed at mealtimes, the more that our child will be relaxed at mealtimes. You might have to fake it till you make it, but if we can remember that eating is going to be harder on some days than others. Some days our child eats more than on days they don't. We can meet their nutrition needs even if they're not eating vegetables. The more that we can think about some of those specific things, the more relaxed we will be at mealtimes, and it will absolutely have an impact on them. Okay, so those are my 5 tips. I'm going to just summarize each of them. We have the encourage but don't pressure, lessen expectations and make sure you're always providing something that you know that's on their preferred food list, celebrate small wins, pack that nutrition punch, and relax. Those are 5 things that you can do. Try one of those at your next mealtime and see how it goes. As a reminder, my online program, Conquering Mealtimes, is now open for enrollment at a discounted price. It's $70 off of the normal price, so it's $199. It's lifetime access. It's an online course with one-on-one support and group support. So every single month you can book a one-on-one call with me, which I know has been so helpful for families, also for families that are super busy, so we can work together and find a time that works on your schedule. Okay, thank you so much for joining me here today and watching. I look forward to hearing from you, and if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Have a good one.